Hello everyone and welcome back to another League 2 roundup, the final League 2 roundup before the January window closes. And with that in mind, hopefully this week we'll have some January window related videos coming out on the channel. I know recently it's been just the roundups, been extremely busy, but we are working on some other types of content for you guys to enjoy. And again, in that vein, thank you so much for 1,000 subscribers once again. I know I mentioned it in the last video, but yeah, if you could subscribe below, let's try and get to 2,000, a long way off at the moment, but even so, a huge thank you for that. But let's not waste much time really. Let's get straight into the League 2 action, jam-packed, of course. And you know, last time we spoke, the Barrow Doncaster game hadn't happened, a 3-1 win for Doncaster. But we're going to start by talking about this weekend's game, by talking about Cheltenham against Chesterfield. A 1-0 win for Cheltenham, a 92nd minute winner for Arkel Boyd. Joe Day, the Cheltenham goalkeeper, getting the highest rating there on football, making the 3 saves, keeping the clean sheet. A really good result though for Cheltenham. Arkel Boyd getting that goal, and a highly rated young player, as we speak about Cheltenham all the time. And up into 12th they go, and maybe I've been a bit early to write them off. Maybe, who knows? They are 9 points off of the playoffs, but we speak about Chesterfield and MK Dons as having a realistic chance of getting into those playoffs, and well, they are only the same amount of points or just 1 point closer, and that is so. We talk about them as having a decent shot at getting into the playoffs because of the quality they've got. Well, maybe Cheltenham have got that kind of quality too. Very young team. Michael Flynn is doing an excellent job there, and I'm really pleased to see that because he's shown promise as a manager in his last few jobs. He's kind of turned sour for him, but he's going really well. For Chesterfield, though, not a great result by any stretch of the imagination. Very new look attack. Duffy and Olagigbe in there, who had a good debut, by the way. Very good clips coming out of him from his debut, but although kind of suggestions maybe he's got a lot of sort of pace and energy, but maybe the final ball and end product and real threat is lacking at the moment. But for Chesterfield, of course, not a great result. They are now 8 points off of the playoff positions. Not too late at all whatsoever, but it isn't the ideal position to be in. The other early kick-off on Saturday was Gillingham against Notts, and yeah, what a performance. Not really performance, but what a result for Notts. A really good away win. Keeps Notts in the top 3. That man, David McGoldrick, scoring a sensational chipped goal. If you haven't gone and seen it, go and check it out. What a finish that is from a player who is, nearly 40. He's heading towards 40, but he's still got it. I think he's 37 now. What a player he is. Charlie Whittaker getting his first professional start. Nick Cerullo with a goal as well, and a very strong performance. A surprise perhaps to see Rob McDonald start again, although for the Diddy goal he does drive out of defence and play the ball forwards. He's just very left foot on the right hand side. It feels very unnatural, especially when you've got Jody Jones on the right side as well. But it worked for Notts. A 2-1, a close win, but a good result nonetheless. Joseph Rode with a goal, and someone that on the Gills in the Blood TV preview that I did, and go and check out Gills in the Blood, by the way. Great content over on that channel. Matchday vlog was fantastic as well. But if you go and he spoke about him as a player with some promise and getting a goal, that's really good for his confidence. I'd like to see him get more minutes. Obviously Bradley Datt coming on as well. That signing feels like now that I feel like Gills' season is written off, that signing feels a little bit of a flat one. It felt like it was a really nice luxury player to have for a promotion charge. When you're looking at a side that actually close to the bottom end of the table, and I'm not saying they're going to go down. I've not included them. I did a screenshot of the relegation battle, and I didn't include Gills in there, despite the fact they're close on points. I just feel they've got too much about them to get dragged into it. But if you look at the run of form, it's less than ideal. In fact, it's absolutely terrible. The last win coming on the 14th of December. And in that run, only the one game, that was Cheltenham, where they scored more than one goal, barely scoring goals and now struggling to keep them out as well. So, yeah, John Coleman's impact not been felt too much, but a good result for Notts and not great for Gillingham. Talking of good results, Wimbledon saw themselves up to 4th, taking on Bradford, who were actually above them at the start of the day. A 1-0 win, and a deserved win as well by kind of what I've seen about the game and the footage I've seen of the game. It looks like that Wimbledon were the better side. Jake Reeves getting an assist with James Tilley. The wing backs continue to impress. If you look at the first video on the channel, it was a Wimbledon breakdown, and we spoke about James Tilley heavily in that video and why I really like him in that left wing back role, and he's popping up with goals. And yeah, it's really, really impressive to see. But what a settled side they've got. The team has barely changed since that video, and that kind of is the hallmarks of a very good team. As for Bradford, it's a disappointing result, going to be honest with you. Disappointing especially because I was planning on doing a Bradford tactical analysis, but I'm going to have to shelve that on for now because they have had the propensity to go on losing runs after tasting defeat. And so want to see kind of how they bounce back from it. If they get back to winning ways next time out, then perhaps that will be the video to do. But for now, going to have to shelve that on because, like I say, they have gone a very streaky team. They've gone on a good run, but then a very poor run. And it's why they can't really maintain a position. I still think they're in a good position to get top 7. I'm going to be honest. I think the teams below them, Salford and Grimsby, directly below them, they'll fall away based on recent performances and recent performances really, rather than results. Even looking at Chesterfield and MK Dons as the ones that could catch them, but I think Bradford, whilst they'll still be wanting to finish in the top 3, I think a playoff finish would be a good season for them. But Wimbledon, great result, and they've got games in hand as well, Wimbledon, so a team to watch for sure. Talking about Grimsby, they did get back to winning ways. They did beat Bromley away from home. Bromley now down to 16th. Not a fantastic patch at the moment for them, to put it mildly. They went on a great run, and talk about runs. They went on a great run now, and a very, very poor one. But I think they built up enough of a buffer to really be safe. And I think that their season is just about you need to pick up a few more points to stay in the division, but that'll be a success and that'll be a job well done. As for Grimsby, they're still pushing. They're still in and around the playoff conversation. They've won 13. They've lost 13. We'll speak about it all the time, but they've lost more games than any side 16th or higher. They are such an interesting side. So bizarre, I want to say, because it is bizarre the way that they are. And the results just are so all over the place, and kind of sums up how I feel about them in terms of where they're going to finish the season. It's really tough to tell. Lewis Cass, by the way, coming on in the 85th minute and managed to pick himself up not 1 but 2 yellow cards. That is some going, by the way, to get yourself sent off after coming on the 85th minute. But a good result for them away from home, a good win. I'm not going to dwell on it too much. A game I do want to talk about, though, is Carlisle 1, Swindon 5. So much to unpack in this one. Carlisle, to start with, with Carlisle, they're such a frustrating team because I come on here and I talk about how I really like Mike Williams as manager, and I do. I think he's a great coach. I think they've got some good talent in the squad, and they've recruited a team which is full of players that he trusts and kind of suit his style as well. And they show a little bit of life. They show something in them that makes you think, oh, they've turned a corner. Their performance against Notts was really pretty good. And you think, well, okay, maybe they are a better team than their league position gives them credit for. And then they do something like this, and they go and lose 5-1 to Swindon, who are up to 14th now, by the way, well and truly out of the relegation picture. No chance they go down this season. Are they a side that are looking at going on a playoff run? I think it's a step too far, like I said last time. But if we just have a quick look at the Swindon team, once again, a little bit of rotation in there, and they scored 5 goals. They've got some really, really good footballers at this club, and they've got a manager who has got them galvanising and moving in the right direction. So is a playoff shout crazy? Maybe a little bit, but they're not a million miles away, and that 4 goals has certainly helped them in terms of their goal difference as well. Now back up to -1. It'd be a big leap for them to do it, but they're on a fantastic run, and Ian Holloway deserves a huge amount of credit for the work that he has done there. Carlisle, though, huge concerns, huge questions. As I say, they show a little bit of positivity, and then it goes sour again. Kind of at the point now as well, when you look at the results around them, Morecambe picking up points. They're now back to the foot of the table. They are only 5 points from safety, but you're also kind of banking on the fact now that you're 8 points away from Accrington, and if they don't start getting points soon, you're actually going to be relying on Tranmere and Morecambe as the 2 teams. There's a massive gap starting to open up, so they need to keep in touch and distance of those teams. But yeah, Carlisle, real concern. But Swindon, absolutely happy days. Outside shout of maybe going on for the playoffs, but no chance of relegation now, really. And they'll definitely be a Football League team next season. All credit has to go to Ian Holloway. Doncaster beat MK Dons, and Scott Lindsay, not under pressure. I don't want to say under pressure, but something isn't quite clicking for MK Dons at the moment. They've got the squad on paper to do well. I still think they're lacking at right wing back. Once again, the Lemony Evans having to cover there for, although I'm pretty sure actually this squad is probably a little bit messed about. Even so, though, Aaron May, when he's not starting, they are short of cover at right wing back, in my opinion. But I do think they've got a good team. They've got elements in here that Scott Lindsay can work with. They've got some very good footballers. Maybe they've got a bloated squad, and that is the issue. I mean, you've got a massive squad. It's hard to keep a huge squad happy, but they've got the options to pick from. For whatever reason, it just isn't clicking for them. And they now sit 9 points outside of the playoffs. It's not undoable, but they need to go on a run fairly soon. To be fair to them, that is a tough game. Doncaster, second in the league, away from home. I think they match them quality for player, but I think that Doncaster is a more settled team. They've been, under the same leadership for a long time now, and continue to be impressed with what you see from Doncaster. Run pretty good. No massive wins in there, but a very good run. 4 back-to-back wins. First time, actually, we've seen Doncaster put some consistent performances in. They've had that about them. They're a very good team. There is a reason why a lot of people thought they'd go up. Well, they went on an incredible run last season, and were unlucky in the playoffs, or with the favourites going into the playoffs and didn't materialise. But this season they've been consistently inconsistent. They've had a couple of good performances, then a couple of poor ones, and it's meant that they've been thereabouts, but not quite picking up all the points they should do. Finally, even if you look at the amount of, they were on 4 games ago, they were 11 wins, 7 losses, 7 draws. Now it's 15 wins. And that 4-game run of back-to-back wins is huge for them, and just shows, and if any team knows about going on a good run, it is them. It happened to them last season. Just shows what a good run can do in this division. Puts them up to second, puts them 7 points behind the league leaders, albeit they played a game more. But even so, huge strides for Doncaster, and a massive result, a 2-1 win there. Move on to Harrogate. Really good point for them against Crewe. Crewe will be disappointed to probably not take all 3 points, in fairness, especially considering they're 5th in the table. But it's a decent result away from home. I think both sides probably walk away from this relatively happy. Harrogate won't be expecting too much at home against the side in the playoffs, but then again, you need to get points from your home games to sort of have any chance of staying in this division. And as long as they keep ticking along and picking up points here and there, the sides below them are so poor that I think they can get away with that, to be honest with you. And they've got some decent players in this squad as well. They've added quite well in Jan, as like I said before. So I think Harrogate, of the teams down there, probably the one I've got more confidence in than others to get points. Crewe, it's a bit of a mixed bag, I guess, for Crewe, because it's a decent result away from home, especially after going behind, and it keeps them in the mix. They're not a million miles off. They're still only 2 points off the promotion places, albeit haven't played a game more. But even so, they're going to finish in the top 7 this season. I think they've got a very solid squad they're rotating, and a very good manager in Lee Bell as well. But not a bad result, all things considered. Morecambe Fleetwood, this is probably the turn up for the books this weekend. The shock result. 2 games had 6 goals in it, and this is one of them. And who would have thought that Morecambe would score 4 goals? And Andy Dallas, by the way, you can't ask for much more than that. His first game in a Morecambe shirt, he scores a brace on his debut for the club. Fantastic from him. What an addition that'll be. I really like Andy Dallas. He's in the National League. He's been a very, very good striker for a number of years. Great turn of pace, good finisher. And I think he could add that little bit of something that Morecambe were lacking, a little bit of direct threat. And he showed that with 2 goals scored in that one. But certainly did not expect this one to be 4-2 by any stretch of the imagination. A poor result for Fleetwood, to be honest with you. Building a little bit of momentum. But I do stand by. I know they've got games in hand on teams around them. They've only played 27. But I think it's a bridge too far to say that they're going to go into the playoffs. But then again, I said that about, I said Swindon and Cheltenham could possibly be surprise outside shouts. And Fleetwood have got more games, got games in hand on them. They've got 3 games in hand on Swindon. So maybe they could do. They certainly would be the side you probably would have picked before the Morecambe game as an outside shout. It becomes more of an outside shout now that they've gone away from home and lost. But I do think they've got some quality in that side and a good gaffer as well in Pete Wild. But Morecambe, huge result for them. Yes, it doesn't mean they're out of trouble. they're still 3 points off of safety, and yes, they're relying on the fact that they kind of need Carlisle and Tranmere to be poor, or they need to go on and run themselves and really catch one of those teams. But the big issue has been scoring goals, and all of a sudden they've scored 4 of them in one game. Gives you a lot of hope for them moving forwards, and yeah, delighted for Morecambe. It's been a really tough season for them. Newport Barrow, 6-pointer it felt like, and it probably could be come the end of the season. It might be the difference between Newport or Barrow staying up, or both of them. Newport were kind of heading towards a real danger zone. This was a much needed win for Nelson Jardine. Look at that run of form. So poor. All of a sudden, though, a good point away at Salford and a win against Barrow. Massive. Could it be a turning point for them? Not the first time this season we've seen Nick Townsend be man of the match. 5 saves in that one. He is one of the best shot stoppers in the league. And without him, I do think they could be rooted to the bottom of the table. Then again, you could say the same about Harrogate and James Belshaw. A couple of those sides down the bottom have got some very, very good goalkeepers. So do Barrow, to be fair. Barrow have got 2 of them on their books. And I think they've got Andy Wing in now, who I think is a very good manager. And I think that they've got improvement in them. And that's why I worry about them the least. I think they've got a new manager bounce. I think they've got some good players in their side as well. And they've got a good manager. But it is a poor result for them. I think they would be hoping for at least a point there against a relegation rival, if you like. I think Barrow's season now is about putting together a few strong performances and getting themselves out of danger, and then looking towards next season and building with Andy Wing at the helm. Port Vale, they beat Accrington. It's not a terrible result, Accrington, on paper, but when you consider that Port Vale went out 10 men after 13 minutes, it doesn't look great, does it? Accrington as well, been on a bit of a better run, but still not amazing, and I still maintain they're struggling in front of goal. They really are struggling in front of goal, and it's weird because they're one of the highest scorers down at the bottom, but you actually look at their goals, they all came towards the start of the season, really. Look at it recently, especially. Scored just 2 goals in the last 5 in all comps. Fair enough. One of them is against a Premier League side, but even so, not been fantastic in front of goal. So a concern for them. It is a tough, place to go. Port Vale, they're a good side. Port Vale, by the way. What's mad, by the way, between these 2 sides? Port Vale have scored just 1 more goal than Accrington this season. Yet, look how many more points they've got. Almost 20 points more. Just show you the fine margins in this division, doesn't it? And they've not even conceded. Well, they conceded a fair few more, to be fair, but not double the amount. What I will say though is it's a good result for Port Vale with 10 men, very, very good. And Darren Moore will take a lot of hope from that one. Really good run they're on, and they're very much in those playoffs. And as long as they stick in around that mix, they've got the players and the quality to actually take that leap. And perhaps come the end of the season, if it's tight margins, they've got those experienced players that I think could get them over the line and finish in the top 3. I think as long as they stay within sort of 3-4 points of the top 3, they're going to be in that conversation come the end of the season. And that's what it's about for them at the moment, just ticking along. Accrington, it's not a disaster because other teams around them are poor, but again, against 10 men for such a long time, not the best result. But talking to the teams that are around them that are poor, Tranmere could be just about the poorest, actually. I know they've got more points than the 2 sides below them, but perhaps they are the most hopeless of the sides. Look at the run of form. It's terrible. Yes, they got a win over Carlisle, and again, I say it all the time, but that could be the difference maker. That could keep them in this division, especially because it's over Carlisle, a side that may be pushing for that final safety spot. But loss after loss after loss, lost to Morecambe. Some decent teams have played in there, but they just don't look likely to do anything. They look really, really low on confidence. And Colchester, who we've spoken about, again, as a side that maybe along with your Fleetwood are ones you'd have, you look at the squad and the management there and you think, okay, they could go on a run and maybe they're the outside dark horse, underdog shout for the playoffs. But I think that's the kind of position they're in now. Realistically, they're probably not going to finish in the playoffs. They're definitely not going to go down. But what's quite nice about the position they're in is they're kind of pressure free. They haven't got a lot of pressure on them, so then it's a nice position to be in because every point they now kind of pick up, or if they go on a run, it's kind of like, well, if we go on a run, it's great, but there's no pressure for us to reach the playoffs because it's not looking that likely. For Tranmere, they need to turn things around and need to find a way out of it somewhere, somehow. I don't know what that is, and it doesn't look like they're going to add anyone before the deadline. So, what do they do? And you look at that squad, I don't see that team and think, wow, there's a load of quality in there that's going to really drag you out of the doldrums and really bring you out of trouble. Amari Patrick, of course, is their standout player. And Christian Dennis is a goal scorer who came off the bench and did score. But outside of that, I'm not 100% sure on the quality of the squad now, which is mad to say that at the start of the season I predicted them so high. I've got that horribly wrong. And then finally, Walsall, they do finally pick up points. And you may say this is a good result for Walsall when you consider that they played a side in Salford who are in and around the playoff positions. What I will say is Salford have been on a pretty poor run themselves since they got absolutely hammered by Man City. Been on a pretty poor run. And I did a tactical breakdown on the channel, and I did have question marks over how good they actually were. It's a big result for Walsall from the perspective that Danny Johnson came on and scored 2. They need a goal scorer. They've lost Nathan Lowe, who got recalled, and Jamil Matt is out injured. They signed Levi Manchi from Bromley. Really like that signing. I think that's a really good one, and he hasn't really had a chance to show himself at Bromley. They've got Albert Adoma, and they brought on Danny Johnson as well. They've also, of course, got Josh Gordon back, and they've also got Ethan Wheatley in on loan as well. But between them, they haven't got loads of goals. Adoma has been bit better as an impact sub. So the fact that Danny Johnson came on and scored not 1, but scored 2 goals, and they came back from 2-0 down extremely late on, is a huge bonus, because I think 3 losses in a row would have been huge alarm bells ringing, just from the perspective they've still got a massive cushion. But then when you've actually got that much of a lead and it starts to shrink, doubts probably go in your head more than if they were competitive and lost a couple in and around them. Say Doncaster went and lost the next 2, or Crewe went and lost the next 2. You're not seeing that lead that you have evaporate and shrivel up almost. So I think this was much needed, and showed real character to turn around what could have been a potential bump in the road. Form's been not great in the last 3, but they've got some okay fixtures coming up. Then again, every fixture to them looks pretty good just because of the side they are, how good they are. But really, up until Wimbledon, maybe you got Chesterfield and Colchester in that run up to Wimbledon, and maybe Swindon are in a good form. But really, up to towards the end of March, then they've got a tough run with some very good teams in there. But they've got chances to pick up points. They've navigated a pretty tough period. They're still 7 points clear at the top. They're still 11 points clear of the promotion places, albeit having played a game more, but still very, very massive cushion they've got. And I think that will pay dividends for them come the end of the season. Will they run away with the league? Perhaps not. But they are certainly, I still think they're going to go up. And I think that kind of character and resolve showed a lot. For Salford, disappointing to lose, drop points from that position. But again, spoke about their run that they've been on. Not great. So probably a good result, all things being told. And that brings us to the end of another League 2 roundup. So I want to reiterate my thanks for you guys watching. It really does mean a lot, and commenting and subscribing as well. I really do appreciate it. If you could like the video, it would go a long way. And if you could subscribe if you have enjoyed, we do these League 2 roundups all the time. Other videos on the channel as well, tactical analysis of League 2 teams, transfer videos coming up, maybe some updated predictions as well. Who knows what is to come on the channel over the next few weeks. But I would like to say thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.